Well, we finally brought on my bro.
Nice.
Yeah, my official brother. My brother from another mother. Married to my wife's twin sister. I'm talking about the D, David Lichtenstein.
It's such a fun conversation. I was so glad to have an opportunity to talk to him. And like some of our audience might not know his name, but probably recognize some of his work.
Well, it's everywhere, and we talk about it in the episode. But his artwork, his hardware, his pieces can be found on not only Michael Kors, if you've heard of him, but purses and jewelry and other fashionable accessories found all over the world.
Yeah, it's amazing. It was so much fun.
A true artiste. So without further ado, please welcome my brother, David Lichtenstein. Don, what is up, my man?
What's going on, man?
Well, I just made a phone call, not just to anyone, but my brother. My brother is in the house, and perhaps the most creative dude I know, and I'm not just saying that. He is a true artist.
Wow, that's high praise.
Yeah. I'm bringing on the pressure. What is up, David?
Going on, Sam? Nice to hear from you.
You too, man. So I was telling Don, I was like, who should we bring on? And I was like, wait a minute. We have a true artist in the family. My kids know him as Uncle D. Video game, what's the word where you do a lot of stuff? The one connoisseur. Video game connoisseur.
I do know my stuff.
He knows everything about video games, and we could do a whole podcast about that. But we're actually going to be talking about his work because, David, what is it that you do professionally?
I design hardware for clothing and accessories. So the metal parts on handbags and clothes and shoes, like the logo stuff or the lock, hinges, rings, chains, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, when we go out, when we're at the mall, he can just point to items at the store and be like, oh, that one's mine. I made that. Michael Kors, he was with Michael Kors for a long time. We'll dive into that. But David, I want to start off just at the beginning, man. As a child, were you already creating art?
Yeah, I definitely got into drawing probably around middle school. I think I was always into creative stuff, but like drawing per se, trying my hand at that, probably got into that in middle school. One of my best friends did like comic books, and he had some older brothers that were like insanely good. And he was pretty good himself, so that kind of got me into it.
Oh, dude, I always thought that you were like, I always figured elementary school. You weren't really starting in the arts until middle school?
Well, that was like drawing per se, but I mean, I think I've always kind of just been into, beauty and creativity, like music, and, but drawing myself, I only started probably around middle school.
So you didn't really you weren't making anything throughout elementary school, but you do remember that you were like interested in just the arts themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've just like always been a creative thinker, but never really tried my hand at like becoming good at drawing until around then, which is why like I'm blown away by my kids. I have a 6-year-old and 9-year-old that are probably better than I was like in high school.
Really?
Already, so,
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
10-year-olds.
What are they drawing now?
Oh yeah, a lot. Yeah, definitely.
I know Lilu, his daughter, who's just a superstar. She's really into fashion, right?
Yeah, I think he's probably going to easily be a designer. Not the easiest industry, really. So I don't know. I might steer it in or out of that. I don't think I have any say either way, so that's fine.
Yeah, no doubt. So when you started off in middle school, what kind of stuff were you making?
I like comic books, like hero drawings. As you said, I was always really into games. I was always fascinated by the character designs in games. So that's like something I've always been into. I used to really dig into the books. I don't know if you remember like the original Legend of Zelda book had all like the pixel art, yes, but then they had these like little sketches that kind of fleshed out the world. You know what I mean? So I was really into like how video game art and books and things like that would have these expanded ideas. So you're playing a game, but there's a deeper story to it. And I think that's what kind of set me on my path because I was always looking for the deeper meaning in things, and like a wider, deeper lore, like wider meaning.
Yeah. I gotta be honest, like David has his own way of thinking, man. Like I'm telling you, dude, like, I go into like just using a video game as an example. Like I go in, I'm like guns a-blazing, let's go battle. But he's got a different way of approaching just about everything.
Yeah.
Like
I'm weird AF.
Well, like what is like your creative process? Like if you can't, like I've always been curious myself, and I'm not like really sure what's going on up there when you're thinking about things, but I see you take your time, you really put a lot of thought into whatever it is you're doing, really, whether it's just finding the right product for whatever when you're at the store, or creating a character in a video game. Like what if you could put it into words? Like I don't know if you can, but like what?
Yeah, no, I can't. I just thought of it. I'm very rabbit hole prone. So if there's a rabbit hole, I'm going down it. So if I get really deep dive on anything, I just will. I don't know. I get into a certain topic, or even at work, while I'm working, I'll kind of like just have random thoughts and look into that, and sometimes that leads me to a new idea. I just kind of go with it. I let the thoughts kind of take me.
Yeah, and you really you do take your time with things. Like, could you explain to my friend Don here what it's like when you're creating, let's say we're playing like a first player shooter, but you get to create your character. Like, what is going on in that skull when you are creating that character?
I don't know, but I've lost a lot of hours to character generator. I've fallen asleep many times.
We all have, David.
There's probably a lot of games I think I've never gotten to actually play just from falling asleep generating a character for 2 or 3 hours.
I'm the same way, whether it's like Dungeons and Dragons, or it's like video game stuff. I just love seeing all the possibilities that are in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, that's another thing I started drawing was I used to play D&D with my friends in middle school, and drawing the characters, or again, like just fleshing out the lore. And that's actually what I get into in the character designers too. I'm like thinking of a backstory. Like right now, I just started the new Elden Ring Night Rain, and I named my character Cassian's Ghost, based on Cassian from Andor and things like that. Oh, spoilers. But it's I just think, I don't know, why do anything if there's nothing to it? Yeah, I don't know. I have a hard time staying on the surface, really, in some ways, but it's more fun to me to just.
Well, I got a good example of that. I think it's a good one. Like, could you explain to Don, like, what your thought process was? And I'm talking a lot about your thought process. I'm telling you, Don, it's nothing like I've ever seen before. I'm so serious. Like, can you explain to Don what went into naming your oldest son? Because you put so much thought into it, and there's even like. David is really into like little hidden like Easter egg kind of things, and he loves details. So I just remember you trying to think of this name, and there's even like a little Easter egg in his name.
Sure.
Could you explain that to Don?
Well, back up a half a step, and being a David, there's like 700,000 million of them every hour. So I kind of wanted to give my kids unique names, because every time you tell somebody your name is David, David, yeah, that's great. So, my oldest son's name is Ronan, because I kind of thought of him as someone who would, kind of decide his own destiny. Ronan is a samurai who doesn't, have any, emperor or anything he reports to, so he's on his own, making his own choices. So that's kind of like what I wanted for him. And then, kind of hid, his middle name is Jace. So it's Ronan Jace.
Jace,
so,
right?
Yeah. So in the middle of the two names is hidden the word ninja. So it's RONINJACE.
That's cool.
Isn't that cool, dude?
Yeah,
that's like
really
such a freaking David thing, man. Like that's typical David right there.
Yeah.
So
my second name is Lilu, from Lilu Dallas from Fifth Element. She was supposed to be like the perfect person, like kind of a messianic figure, but then they made her a girl, thinking that the girl could be more tame. Obviously, that wasn't the case in the movie. But setting a high standard, I guess, for her. Yeah. And then her middle name is Alexandria, which is named after I had I would have had an older brother, but he passed away in childbirth, and his name was Alexander. So I wanted to name her after that. But also like Alexandria, like the Library of Alexandria. Like if you know her, I mean, her mind is basically the Library of Alexandria. So she's really living up to that.
Don, like you were saying that you're like that with characters too. Is that the way you think too? Are you always like looking into the details and, throwing in some fun hidden stuff? Like what's your...
Yeah, when I'm writing, yes, or when I'm painting, like I'll put things that like no one's ever gonna see this. This is so small. Why am I putting this much detail into it? But I know it's there, and that kind of stuff. Like as far as like geek naming, my daughter I really wanted to name after Kaylee Fry from Firefly, but my wife would have no way were we going to spell it that name. So her name's still Kaylee, but it's spelled in a completely different direction. I lost that battle.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well, the Firefly reference gets you a pretty high pedigree in terms of geekdom, but I mean it as a compliment.
So you're in middle school, like you're just starting to draw. Like, did you have any inspirations or anybody that you looked up to in the art world?
In comic book artists, my favorite was always Art Adams. I think he's just like so like clean and perfect. And if you look into his like other art that he does, I think he's in kind of a league of his own.
What did he create?
I like this. What's that?
What books did he create?
Oh, he did X-Men for a while. That's where I got into it. He did like when the X-Men went to Asgard. I'm not exactly sure what else he really focused on.
Do you know him, Don?
Like you can find images he did for like Godzilla and other things like that. Arthur Adams. And also like Beasley was another one, like that exaggerated look. Frank Fazzetti, the D&D artists, are amazing as well. Again, like being into the lore. I mean, D&D has like limitless lore. And then I got more into like Japanese stuff because Japanese game designers were really cranking out all these like great ideas, and then they would tweak the ideas. I got really into Japanese character design, just the way that they kind of over exaggerate things, and it's kind of compelling to me. Like you've got these people with these unrealistic proportions, and why does it look like? Why can it still look attractive? Why can it still look amazing when no person's actually shaped that way? Nobody's eyes are that big. Nobody's other stuff is that big, but still they do it in a way that looks really cool.
Yeah. When you're thinking about these artists, do you ever channel them when you're creating stuff? Because if I'm going to guess, I'm going to think, no, I feel like everything you do is kind of like unique to you.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I think even I a little bit struggle because, I used to, I don't care anymore, but I used to struggle when I'd be drawing, my style would change like through the drawing. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't wind up drawing the same style as I started off drawing.
Really?
Yeah. But it's that much of like a reactive, like what do I want to do right now? You know what I mean? I used to draw a lot of like abstract shapes that had, to Don's point, like hidden meanings and things like that in them. And like you would never know like what they were. But me, when I looked through those sketchbooks, like I know exactly what they were. And a lot of times they were really tweaked out ideas and really strange things, and just became like almost a back and forth between me and the drawing. Like I would let it kind of like lead me and see what I saw in it and then lean into that. So that's what I used to enjoy just on a drawing perspective.
Have you kept any of your old sketchbooks?
Oh yeah, I have them all.
Oh, David is a collector of, but can we do a little, can we do a little side mission and talk about your collection, dude?
With Mike, I kind of have a collection of collections. So which one do you want to talk about?
I don't know. Maybe the one that's just bonkers, dude. Video games.
I got a couple.
Yeah. Could you give a brief rundown of exactly what you've got?
Well, I'm not a completionist, but I got a couple games. I mean, I really got into collecting retro games for a while. I think physical media is probably going away, so I got into I like the idea of actually owning things. You pay subscription for everything now. They just want to bleed you until you're gone. But there's something to like owning, a classic game. I got into the soundtracks and the graphic style and all this stuff. So each one to me is just like a portal to another world. I mean, you go like game hunting somewhere, you're not going to spend $5 on anything better than a nice game find. It's just a whole world you can go explore and have fun in.
Are you more into like console games or PC gaming?
I've never really been a PC gamer except when I was really young, like the start of it, like literally like CGA and VGA.
Oh, wow.
Those games. Yeah. I actually have some box stuff still, like Ultima, things like that, King's Quest, things like that.
Oh, that's really good back there. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'm old as crap. I don't know if that's been mentioned. 1974.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, nice. 74?
Yeah.
Nice. You're the tiger.
Yeah.
I'm a bore.
Yeah.
I'd never say that about you, Sam.
Oh, thank you, sweetheart. So
no, I've got a decent. Yeah, so it's like cartridges. I got Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, up through whatever. I've got some of the old Atari and Coleco and things like that. But man, it's hard to find time to game, and it's really hard to choose that to do when you do find time to game. So
yeah, we kind of knew as we were having kids. No, we didn't know. We thought one way, but usually when I see David, I'm like, "Are you gaming?" And
have you tried to introduce? Have you tried to introduce your kids to like an Atari or any of those older consoles?
Not an Atari. The challenge on those games. And I have young kids, so it's really tough to get them over that hump. There's actually some great YouTubers out there that do some channels and have some good lists of games that are okay for young kids, like retro gamers. I don't know if you're aware of it, but there's like a lot of handheld retro game machines that are out now. You can play anything on them. So there's a lot of good channels that like output that. But yeah, those games were rough. I tried starting my kids as I got little handhelds for them that could play anything. There's like 10,000 games in it, and they're like, they won't even bother looking through it.
That's crazy.
But, there is some stuff that, they like to play the Mario Kart. I get them into random things. Whenever I think like it's cooperative, because it never goes well. I have 4 kids, actually.
You ever try that cooking game? What's that game called?
Overcooked.
Oh, dude, you did it.
Yeah, I try playing with my daughter, and it's just real frustrating.
Oh, we stick to those first 3 levels because after that, dude, things get heated.
Yeah. And I think it's left the switch a couple of times.
Ronan wanted to play that during his birthday party the other day, and I couldn't find it. And I was thinking it's probably better off that I couldn't find it because he stayed friends.
Yeah.
Do you find, man, I don't know about you, but like I feel like the kids of today just can't handle the difficulty of those old school games.
Well, if you want to go down that road, I think there's a lot of challenges that come with the quick fix, speed scrolling, the endless dopamine that kids get into nowadays. I think it's harder to focus on something harder. But also, you got to take things in the context of the time. And at the time, that's all you had. You had a couple games, and that was it. It wasn't like you could just go watch a video instead. If your show wasn't on, you had nothing to watch. If you had 3 games and they were all hard as crap, you were going to try and get further in one of them, right? I actually think that's part of what sparked me off as a game collector was like, there was no worse feeling to me as a kid than not wanting to play any of the games that I had. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I was like, this was too hard, and I'm down already, and if there was nothing else for me to play, that was like my worst feeling. I talked to another friend of mine who kind of had a similar thing. Like, I think that's what kind of drove us into collecting things now. Because now, as an adult,
man, the worst thing is when you're playing Ninja Gaiden nonstop and you get to the final boss finally, and that Nintendo game just freezes. Brutal. Yeah. What's like? I want to get back to the life in the your artist life, but man, I gotta ask, like, I know you've played like you beat Dark Souls and the really tough games of today, but those old Nintendo games, those hard ones, like which one are you most proud of that like you conquered?
Easy answer is I beat the original Contra without using the 30 guides.
Whoa!
Yeah, I genuinely can't remember if I didn't die or if it was just the regular lies, but it's probably just the regular lies. But my sister was there to back me up. So
as a witness. So,
yeah.
all right, dude. So you're in middle school. You're starting to draw. At what point did you decide, like, hey, I kind of want to like perhaps make a living off of the arts?
Well, I mean, again, like as I enjoyed art, I thought something I might like to do was character design because that's something I'm really into. I have tons of like Japanese character design books, and from anime, manga, games as well. But really, those guys are way more talented than me at like just the genuine art of like drawing. I don't know. They're
Really?
way more talented. Yeah, well, I mean, in my mind, that's what I thought. But then, one thing led to another, and a couple steps in between. But it kind of transitioned into wanting to design things for real people. You know what I mean? Like, it kind of as a mix of I didn't think I could beat them at their own game of designing characters, and at the same time, just something interesting about bringing that aesthetic into the world, like if I could make the world more like anime and games, I would, so it kind of became like that. Do you want to talk like education? Because that's kind of
Yeah, man.
transition. Yeah. So, I went to Eastern Connecticut and they let me do, individualized major program. So I technically have my BFA, Bachelor's of Fine Arts, in modern aesthetic communication. And so what that was a mix of just kind of emerging technologies in art, so like graphic art and electronic music and things like that were new at the time, as well as like creative writing and also like marketing. And so it's kind of a mix of like art and marketing, basically with the idea being, you're designing, but you're keeping the end user in mind. Mm-hmm. So I got into thinking like I could do things like logos and branding, things like that. So that was really cool to let me explore just anything I wanted to explore. I mean, my mind moves from between things all the time. Like it's really hard for me to just focus on one thing, and that serves me well in my job because I have to do a lot of different things at once, and I kind of flip between them instead of like just doing one and finishing it. So in school, I was doing the same thing and just among different kinds of art.
Dude, I'm kind of blown away by this because I always thought that you had like this uncanny ability to just focus on the task at hand. I am very wrong
one
about
or the
this.
other. Yeah, it's like either a deep dive or no. It's a deep dive when I'm really interested, and when it's not that, when it doesn't like tick that box, it's like I can like keep myself on it for as long as possible. So the challenge in design work is that you have to do what they want you to do. So if some of that is boring, and any kind of work process has boring parts to it, so it's challenging for me to like stay on that without kind of like just moving over like, all right, I'll move over to this thing I can think about, go back and forth, and that kind of keeps me a little more entertained. So after school I started doing advertising and logos like I kind of thought I would.
Who were you? Where were you doing that? Were you in New York City?
No, at first I was in the Georgetown area. And I was with TVWA Chiat-Day's big advertising company around that area. And then I moved to New York around 2000 and became the art director of Brand Week magazine, which is like a branding, kind of industry mag. And then the internet bubble burst, and then there was nobody actually being paid to do graphics. So I was just looking for different kind of artistic work and got a job designing kids bags. So it was like
backpacks?
Like lunch bags, the backpacks, licensed things like Pink Panther, but like a military bag or like a Yu-Gi-Oh thing at the time, or some of it was just like applying graphics. Sometimes they had me design my own characters and art like for it, so they didn't have to pay like licensing fees. And really the first time I saw like a kid walking down the street with something I designed, I was like, oh wow, this is awesome. So I was kind of stuck on that. Yeah. I was not going back to just graphics after that. After that, I designed a number of different things at different jobs. I did watches and jewelry and bags and stuff. Were
you just bouncing from one job to another, just trying out different stuff, or were you at one place that were just sending you these jobs? How does that work?
Well, it's just that I'm really old, and so I was at each of these jobs for a while. So yeah, I was doing the bags for a while, and I was doing the jewelry for a while, and then watches, and then back to jewelry. Jewelry's a lot of fun because it's very free. You know, you can just like look at inspirations and do what you want to do. And that's why I wound up eventually going to Michael Kors and doing jewelry with their team there, kind of an in-house licensing thing with Fossil. Mm-hmm. And then while I was there, I caught the attention of the people doing like handbags and shoes, and they wanted to know if I could help them do some of their hardware. And I kind of transitioned into doing that. And then they wanted to bring me on full time, and I really got into kind of the puzzle solving aspect of like designing locks or like problem solving, like how do we attach this to that, you know. So I really got a knack for that. I wound up becoming the design director of hardware at Michael Kors. I was there for about 12 years. And we did a lot of great stuff. I mean, we did a lot of innovative stuff. I had a boss that would just constantly come to me with what he thought were like unsolvable problems. And I really got a kick out of like coming up with a solution. You give me a problem and I can't rest until I think of a solution. It's kind of who I am. So that was a good application of that.
Yeah, man. So when you were doing the jewelry, you were able to, how creative do you get to be versus them telling you exactly what they want? Or how does it work?
Well, how it works probably depends on how good you are, I guess. I mean, just the honest answer. Like there are definitely people that are spec monkeys that, you know, they're told what to do and they do it. Mm-hmm. That's probably not my value. I think my value is to come up with something that probably nobody else would have come up with, or to solve a problem that they think can't be solved. You know, you kind of earn your ability to do what you want to do. And even now, though, I got to be honest, the other day, I thought something was really cool. I proposed it to somebody and high up, and they weren't into the idea just because they happen to not like that kind of thing, you know. So you never know. But you know, I'm probably at a point now where that's fine. I take that and I just, you know, move on and do something else.
Now, I just want to, I guess, maybe go back a little bit to Art Adams. You know, you sent over a couple of drawings that I was taking a look at earlier, and the first thing that you mentioned about Art Adams was, you know, clean lines, and then I see this progression into graphic design and logo design for you, and into this hardware design. Is that something that you really are drawn to, is nice, clean kind of presentations?
Well, I have a hard time showing something unless I think it's attractive. You know, like when I think of a concept, I see it in my head and I know it's cool, or I don't, you know, or I won't keep thinking about it. But, you know, the sketches start off rough, and I won't show it until it looks a certain way. I wouldn't call my drawing style clean, I don't think. I actually draw in a really silly way. I don't really draw lines so much as like go back and forth with the pencil. I've been made fun of this since elementary school. So I really go like back and forth a lot and draw like a lot of little lines, and then kind of within that sometimes erase out the line that I want. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's
so sculpting with a pencil instead of
yeah, very much. Yeah, sculpting with a pencil very much. Like I move the lead around a lot with my finger. That's the shading that you see is just me like smudging around and then kind of erasing out where I want to highlight. And yeah, it's very much a back and forth process for me. I've never been like a really, well, that's not true. I did have a time when I was a really clean line drawer, but it is not now.
For a knucklehead such as myself, what do you guys mean by clean versus dirty? I mean,
well, sketchy, I guess, versus like, you know, like this thing that I've always been unable to achieve myself in drawing is the I just had the conservation of line. So trying to get the shape that you want in the fewest amount of strokes possible. And there's some people who can, like, I don't know, draw something really clean with like 3 lines, and it it takes me like 16 to get the same kind of thing. Yeah.
So where I would take probably about 73 to do that same thing. Well, let me ask you a question. When you look at the sketches that I sent over, do they seem clean to you?
They do. I mean, it's
I think
definitely. you know,
that's the end result of a lot of like I erased all the ones that were out of that line. And, you know what I mean? Like, it's a process to get there, but then that's what I'll show. You know.
Yeah, it's like especially like the colored pencil stuff.
So we're looking at this this sphere that looks golden, and it almost looks like a planet. What is that?
I'm actually not sure what I think.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it looks,
does that look clean?
Oh, is that?
Looks almost
yeah,
like
yeah.
Like a latch or
what I wanted to show you guys there was just like, you know, it starts off as a sketch,
right?
And then I go into Illustrator and make, you know, pretty photorealistic, semi-photorealistic tech drawings that are actually really accurate. So in the process of what I do now, I wind up sending these specs, these like technical drawings overseas to a factory, and they have to kick me back like a true CAD.
Yeah.
So basically what I'm sending them is correct to the 10th of a millimeter, to the point where, especially of course, like, you know, if the factory was changing anything more than 0.2 of a millimeter, they would like circle it, and there were not a lot of circles. So, you know, you get pretty good at like knowing tolerances, like how thin something can be,
sure,
you know, how thick it can be before it's too heavy, and you know, picturing something in 3D. So yeah, so what I wanted you guys to see is like it starts off with a sketch of the concept, and then I've got to make, you know, something that lets, you know, Asian factory, other side of the planet, make that exactly as I intend. You know, so that's tricky.
Now, do you do any CAD work yourself, or is it mostly?
I should. Yeah, no, I've had many people tell me I should just be working in 3D since I think that way anyway. Yeah. But really, I've never had. I don't know. I want to say I've never had time, but I probably should. I probably should switch to 3D. But you got to know that for a while, operating in 3D was crazy. It was a real detachment.
Yeah.
You know, even in Illustrator, I used to draw when I was drawing clean lines in college, and you know, I used to draw with just a permanent marker, or you know, these like hard markers,
right,
and make these like very, you know, to my mind, very cool like abstract shapes. Not like tribal stuff, but you know, that would get you along those right lines of thinking of what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
But again, like representing these weird ideas or whatever, like, you know, once I told people what it was, then they could totally see it, but they would never see it otherwise.
What does that mean? I'm sorry, I was just curious because I don't know what that means by CAD.
A computer-aided design.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So, but what I'm trying to say is, even using Illustrator was a step away from the quote-unquote true connected creative process of drawing, right? Because you got to go into the program, you got to select your tools. For the initial phases, it felt like a hurdle to get anywhere near the intunement, you know, of what I wanted to do. And now 3D stuff back then was like programming, basically.
Right.
You know, I mean, it was crazy what you had to do. So I didn't feel like I could really keep the in the momentness of being an artist with that kind of work. Now, obviously people did and do, you know, but I wasn't there. But now the programs are really more intuitive, and I probably could do something. I mean, now you can throw on VR glasses, you know, and literally like sculpt in a virtual environment, which is like amazing.
But dude, every time I see you, it looks like you're designing on a computer though. Like,
no, I am, but it's you know, the CAD images that the spec pages that you see there, that's all Illustrator. So it's all like paper cutout objects.
Yeah.
It's all paper cutout objects, essentially digitally, with gradients and things like that. And I've just gotten over the years really good at like overlaying transparent gradients to make it look a certain way. So, you know, I know what a curved shape looks like. I know what a slope shape out of metal looks like. And so I'm able to kind of show that using Illustrator. Most people can't.
When you started back in the day, I have to assume these programs were a little different. I mean, how are you able to like keep up with all the new technology and, you know, the stuff the kids are all doing?
Well, in a way, I haven't. In the way that I, like I say, should have been doing 3D probably for at least the last 10 or 15 years. But I do keep up with, you know, Photoshop and Illustrator do continually update, and I do keep up with them because I wind up having to do more and more work, so I have to become like more and more efficient. So I'm always one to like if I'm like, this would take forever to do this, what's a shortcut? Like, I'll look it up and learn a new technique, It's getting really interesting now with, it's not quite there yet, but, Adobe programs have like AI generated fills. Or you can draw, a rounded square and say, fill this shape with a bird flying out the window towards a flaming castle. And it'll do it. And it'll give you a couple of versions of it. And I'm kind of stuck, like, I haven't seen a result from that I want to use, but it's great for sparking ideas. So that's like a very new ad, this whole AI thing where I don't think I would ever use it to just create something and say, okay, this did this and I'm done. But it's really good to get my ideas going because you might see something you wouldn't have thought of.
Yeah, I think AI is great for the boring bits, like, where you can kind of like I know exactly what this is, and you can have kind of sometimes root out the things that you definitely don't want to ever see again. Yeah. So yeah, I think we're still learning about how to use this tool, and what it's best for. But yeah,
I got freaked out this morning. I was scrolling and I saw this video. No, I saw it on the news. There's a classroom right now that they're teaching the kids during the day. They're just teaching them, real life skills, tying their shoes, that stuff. But the academic stuff, they have these AI, robots or whatever, that literally tailor the program to the kid's interest. So if the kid's interested in comic books, they're going to teach math using a comic. Yeah. And it freaked me out. I was like, oh shit, I always thought teaching was going to be irreplaceable. How much do you guys worry, you specifically, David, about AI kind of taking over what you do?
Well, I think there's definitely a concern. Not really a concern. I mean, you can see it as a concern or you can see it as an opportunity because I think there's always I think it's better if there's a human component. Like AI is better matched with a person because AI makes a lot of mistakes. AI does a lot of nonsense, and it's really impossible, I think, to have an AI just know the nuances of, I'm working literally with, I don't even know how many, 40 or more designers. And I'm growing a process of knowing what each of them do and don't like. Like, as I said earlier, I presented something to a senior VP, and she simply didn't like, say, for instance, like seashells. So I have to mark that in my mind and move on. And yes, AI can learn that kind of thing, but I think there's a lot of nuance that can't just be input with data. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's been times at Coors where there's been times where, for political reasons, you get kind of held out of meetings or this or that. And I always see that as like such a blindfold because I can't even express, like I used to be in the room with Michael, but whenever that was the case, I knew exactly what he wanted. And whenever that wasn't the case, I'd be struggling through this mire of like, all right, well, how much of this is your own angle and how much of this is your interpretation, or you're not wanting to do this or that versus what he actually wanted, So I think that there's always going to be like an unmatched human ability to kind of really read into everyone involved and kick out like the best thing considering all that. But that said, I think AI is definitely still on the upswell, definitely going to be used in a lot of industries, but there's opportunity there because I do think it needs a human component. So you become the person who can use AI. I definitely would encourage people right now to learn prompting, which is the process of, Google search, you can be good or bad at searching something. Same thing. Like you can be good or bad at giving AI a prompt that'll really give a good outcome,
Yeah, yeah. And so talking about uncanny human ability, David, when there is a problem to solve, I mean, I'm just like, just throw something at it. I don't know. But David will sit down like he's a real perfectionist, man. What kind of problems in the hardware design business do they come to you with? And what's the process like of solving these problems?
Sure. I'll give you a good example. So I had the same boss that used to come to me with challenges all the time. I think he got a kick out of that aspect of me that you just described, where I can't rest until I figure out a solution.
I've seen it, man. So, it could be all night, man.
So he came to me and he wanted to do this bag where, so you have the bag and then you also can buy like a wrap. So it would wrap the outer part of the bag and be a different color. So you only have to pay for the bag, but then, you can get, I think it came with like one, so it could have an alternate. So say you wanted like a black bag, but when you want to go out party, you wanted it to be like silver or whatever. So that's like just a rough idea of what it was. But then, so we figured out how to do that pretty easily. Like, how do you attach something? No big deal. Then he kicked it up a notch. He's like, well, what if we can reverse it? And then you have to think of the ergonomics, or like how the materials can wrap and bend both ways, and like, what's the way to attach that can attach on both sides. So, I was proud of myself when I come up with that. Then he shows the CEO the idea, and we did have a certain mechanism to hold this wrap on the bag. And the CEO says, well, I want it to look the same when the wrap isn't on the bag. So now I have to come up with something on the bag that's going to hold the wrap, be able to hold it on both sides, and still look the same, like when the wrap's not even on the bag. Which is crazy. And he's like, that's probably impossible. Yeah, which is definitely crazy. So he's like, this is probably impossible. But, I cooked on it. And this is a funny thing about me is I often find the answer to things like when I stop just focusing on it and just like go down some rabbit holes and, open my mind up to like different things. And I happened to be looking at a bunch of, I was at a Japanese used bookstore in the city and I wound up finding a book on like cigar cutters. And the certain cigar cutter I saw like made me think of a certain mechanism. And, that led me to come up with an idea that's really probably too hard to describe on the phone. But
no, I want to know, dude. I'm all in on this story.
I have to like draw it. Well, it was basically like you had to push something in. So it was like a spring, like a doorbell kind of thing. So it was basically what was on the bag not look like a doorbell, but had a doorbell kind of function. So there was a button that was raised that, and then there was a barbell on the grommet of the wrap. And that could be pushed in either direction. There's no way I'm going to describe this right now.
Wow.
But the point was, I did it, and I came up with a way to do it, and they actually got like a $10,000 grant, I think, from the U.S. government for like emerging technology.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they had to like send somebody to the company to like interview us and all this stuff. I probably should patent that, but no, they didn't want to patent it. Yeah. But so that kind of thing, like those are the problems that the way I approach things is sometimes they just step away and like think of something completely different, and that just kind of frees your mind up,
Now, how much in the process is do you make like mock-ups of I guess
physical
things? Yeah,
physical mock-ups.
Yeah.
Not really me, because what I do is metal, and I can picture it in my head and I know if it's right. If I'm thinking of how something functions and something's not going to work, I can't describe it, but it's like an alarm goes off. Even if I don't exactly know how it's not going to work. When I design something, I think of the shape and I think of how it's used. So I'm thinking of like duration, like durability, things like that, and I just kind of have a sense of what won't work. So I don't tend to need to mock things up. I do occasionally. It's usually to show other people. So I'll have a place like 3D print something, so I can show somebody that won't understand the shape or, but really the mock-up, quote unquote, for me is like those renderings that I sent you because they're pretty spot on and accurate. And like I say, everything is as it will be to the 10th of a millimeter. So, I mean, if they can't picture it at that point, they're problem.
So Don, like people who know me know I'm like super passionate about teaching, and like my rewards a lot of times what I really love is like 15 years down the road I get like a message from a student. Like I got one last week from a student who now is doing the Cannes Film Festival, and she was like, if we didn't do those little movies we made 10 years ago, I probably wouldn't be here doing this, so thank you. And to me, so cool. Oh dude, it was really nice. One of my students from New York City, those are like my rewards, like my trophies, and I could see it in you. Like a lot of times I love teaching so much that I feel bad for people who don't like, but then I see someone like you who when we are out and we're at the mall and we see your bag, your hardware there being displayed in the window at the very front of the store, and I see the look, and I'm like, oh, okay, I get it now. I get, the passion, what's there. And I'm just curious, like, you've been doing this for a very long time. What is it? What's out there, or maybe just what have you done in the lab of wherever you do your work? What are the things you're most proud of that you look back on? And you're like, hell yeah, I did that.
Well, and the interesting thing about design is it like never stops. So like when I see something in the store, that's something I did like a year ago, because by the time the factory makes it and it gets shipped and, sold and shipped and everywhere, it takes a long time. So it's kind of like constantly going. There's not a ton of opportunity to get too attached to one thing or another, but in general, it does strike me when I go to the store and see, it's, because I'm just there working on my computer, or I'm there in the meeting. But when you go, I've been to Milan and the big plazas. They've got these huge billboards, and it's everywhere. And they've got this big store and this very fancy area. It's got all the stuff in the window, and that's pretty cool. I'll be honest though, like I said earlier, seeing things on kids for some reason does make me even happier. Yeah, like when I saw the kid with, I remember it was a Pink Panther like military bag, and I made it way cooler than it needed to be. It was like all these like hidden pockets and all this stuff, and I knew that had to be his like favorite bag.
Ah, that's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, there's something special whenever you're dealing with kids, but yeah, I think that, and then also like personal things. I designed my own wedding ring for my wife and myself, the engagement ring, and there's like a lot of meaning behind those, and
yeah,
like
I wouldn't even begin to try to like say that I understand the way your mind works. You're a unique dude, and that's the thing about David too, is like it's not just the purse design. It could be the wedding ring. If he's getting my kids a gift for Christmas, there is a lot Hanukkah. Sorry, there's a lot of thought and creativity that goes into that gift. Like it's everything he does. It's kind of like this. You've been doing it a long time. What's up?
Crazy.
Yeah, a little crazy. Do you want to keep on keeping on with the purse hardware? I mean, you've got so many like talents. Do you ever think like, I'm over it, like I want to try my hand at this? Or are you totally content and loving what you're doing? Like, what do you think about for the future?
I mean, I think, obviously as a man raising a family, the first and foremost thing is just providing for your family. I'm actually doing stuff for clothes now. I'm doing Donna Karan and BCBG. So all the clothes, like all the dresses and suits and jackets and everything. So all the hardware for that. It's a bit different, like trying to, cause it's got to fit on the body and like fall a certain way. And so I've always kind of been doing something different in a way. I think both are fine with me. Like if I sit in I sat in the handbag hardware pocket for a while, shoe hardware pocket for a while. You become an expert at something, it's easy to crank that out, but there is something to be said for just like jumping into a new pool and kind of like the struggle. So, I do love what I do enough to keep doing it, which I think is important, but it's definitely a challenge. All the fashion industry is a challenge. It's very competitive. It's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. There's a lot of money on the line. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of deadlines. So I have always thought, I mean, when you say I can get into anything, I can get into anything, man. Like if I'm shipping a chocolate shake, in the end, I'm probably like drawing something on the bottom, like with my straw out of the chocolate, so I can do whatever. And I think, I think you've seen me get lost, to your point, like shopping or something like that. Like I always have to go so fast for work all the time. Like if I can have a moment to myself, or like, again, like having 4 kids, like I could just let my mind relax in a way it never does. And I think eventually, it'd be nice to do something that's just purely creative and not attached to all this big business,
Yeah. Would you ever want to like start your own thing, whatever that is? Like not have to answer to someone, you call the shots? Because I know, man, I know you've had to deal with, opinions that you don't agree with and, people telling you things and you're like, that's not the way it goes, but you got to do it anyway. Like,
yeah. I mean, I think I'm pretty unbothered by that stuff. By this point, it's not my name on the door. So, if they want to do it their way, it's their choice.
Really? You're at that place now?
I mean, who cares? I know when I'm right, and I could agree with them, but then we both be wrong. So I just do what they want. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm probably just a frustrated sculptor at heart. Like I probably just should have just done, whatever I wanted to create. But it's challenging to know that you'll be able to raise a family, especially in this world we live in now.
Yeah,
very
no
challenging. So this became something where I was able to kind of excel. Another point about the AI thing, just to tie back into this to that, I think who you are as a person is going to matter a lot in the future, because yes, AI is going to be able to do a lot of things, but we are going to need people around to kind of like make sure it's doing what it's supposed to do and check that. I think that's going to come down to really like personal connections in the office, or at the workplace, and just like making sure people want you to be there, for who you are, so when you show up as like a positive energy in a place, I think I'm pretty well known for that. I just recently was moved from one brand to these other brands, and, it was a big deal to the people I was leaving behind, because they enjoyed working with, and I think that is going to be what can secure someone a job in this upcoming environment where, AI is going to be a factor, and, there's a lot of competitive nature to things.
With the competitive nature, like I have to imagine it could get pretty heated too. I mean, you're not just competing, but you're like competing with creative artists. Is that a big challenge in your professional life?
For me, the challenge isn't the creative artists. Because those are the ones that I love working with and that love working with me. The challenge for me is the people that don't have a lot of actual ability and are just playing political games to get ahead. Mm-hmm. Anybody who's good loves working with me. Anybody who's terrible is, can be intimidated or this or that, or, they'll do other things to make sure they stay on top, or, those are the people you have to watch out for. True creative people, the true talented people, like they tend to want to work together and, collaborate, because the only thing better than a truly creative person is two creative people bouncing an idea back and forth, and it bing, bing, bing goes up, to the moon.
Huh. So, do you have something?
No, I'm just, I usually sit on the podcast and I nod along with things, and I'm like a really good listener on a podcast, which is probably not the best job here. But
I've just had an idea. You should get a headband with a bell so we can hear it ringing when you nod it.
Yes.
Some sort of podcast cow. Yeah. So like, I think about that, and we have this club, this art club called Art Club, here in Hamilton, and I think that's true. Like more art is more art, right? And I think the more successful organizations are the ones that build some sort of community internally, so like being able to come into work and like not having egos fighting, for attention in there is like a, the perfect scenario where you can just like,
sure.
Like let, it's almost like the, this makes me sound old too, but like the old Andy Hardy movies, like with Mickey Rooney and Judy Garland, your mom makes dresses and my uncle's got a barn, and like we're gonna make some crazy shit go on here. But yeah, I think that's great where you have somebody who has a skill set in one area and a skill set, another person has a skill set in another area, and they can make like the Reese's peanut butter cup of like, of cool art, cool things. So,
How far can someone, like, we've all had teachers who just suck. Like they're not good at it. I mean, how far can someone get in art and design when they're not truly creative and talented?
Oh, those are usually the bosses.
yeah, pretty far.
Oh my God, dude, I can relate, man. There's the principals who come into the classroom and try to tell you how to teach when they've never taught a day in their life.
Yeah, the people who are like director of like theater facilities, they're the ones that never really did theater.
Oh my God, dude.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. You know what they say, those who can do, those who can't teach.
And those who can't teach PE.
Yeah, and those who really can't become the boss.
Yeah. Right on, brother. So real quick before we head out, like anything about the kids, dude, you got to be so proud. It looks like little Lilu's putting her creativity into writing. Didn't she just like create her own paper about plastics? And I mean, your kids are they seem to
they're all amazing. Yeah, I mean, Lilu's one that'll sit there and like crochet her own hat while she's listening to music that I think is cool, while she's like drawing, in between. Amazing. Yeah, she likes to do everything. Ronan's really into, again, playing with his friends, connecting online, like being the best in Fortnite. And, he's another one. He comes up, he just did a project the other day, like what's the future lunchbox? And he had all these great ideas, like, he gave it robot, wheels to follow you around, and like, what was it? Microwave built into the lunchbox so it could heat it up, and, what is it? Freeze-dried food, and then the the thing has a chamber to like rehydrate the food. So
really? That's so
yeah.
you, man.
I got one thing, because I did like on the way over here, I did a quick Google search of you. I was like, who's this guy? Yeah. So
do I show up?
There's
other more famous people.
Yeah, there's a lots of billionaires out there, and I'm like, well, that's or Roy Lichtenstein's son, who's a drummer. And no, but I came up on this Instagram post from Saddle River Day School, or about a graphic design about shoes, a class about shoes.
Yeah. What?
And that sounded really cool, and I kind of wanted to ask you about that project and how like you were doing this little mentorship with the students there.
I didn't know about
this.
Project.
Oh yeah, Sam, I'm teaching the kids.
What? Oh Lord!
Gotta save the children.
Yeah. What's going on, man?
What? I can't teach kids too? What? No, it was pretty cool. The president of the brand I was doing at the time, which was a relaunch of Halston, her daughter was in that school, and they were doing a project to design sneakers. So the president, who I reported to, she asked if I wanted to join her on this and just kind of like help the kids with what our process was, and in the design field, and then look at what they were doing, give pointers, this and that. So that's what we did. We had a couple of meetings with them via video chat in our showroom actually, and they would show where their project was at. Probably like maybe like 15 kids ish, something like that. Different ages as well. I think like just through high school grades, I think. And the school is actually offered a great opportunity to them to actually get these shoes made. Whoa. So they work with, I'm blanking out what the name of the website is. Sorry, you could add it in if you want. But so the kids come up with these designs and they actually get the shoes made, and they're graded on that. So we were, helping them come up with a concept, come up with a brand identity. This is all like right in my wheelhouse. So that was a lot of fun. And, my boss is, the president's daughter wanted to do one based on Godzilla, which is really cool. Cool logo. And, we talked into getting like, we would just add things like I suggested maybe doing the laces like a way they would look like his beam, like something like sparkly laces or like light up laces, things like that. So it was a lot of fun. Yeah, the kids really got a kick out of it, and you could see every time we met with them, their ideas really elevated, and they took notes. Like we would tell them if something didn't look good, or if like we thought they could lean more into the idea this way or that. So we met with them about 4 times. And in the end, they had the shoes made, and it's really cool.
Were the kids super responsive to your notes?
Some more than others, but yeah, for the most part. My boss was really, at the time, she'll call you out if you didn't follow the notes. So a couple kids got called out.
That's good. That's a good life lesson right there. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. I didn't know you were doing that. That's so cool. Hey, before we let you go, most important question of the day, the question I ask you very often, sir. I need to know what game we should be playing, brother. Yeah, Don, too.
Right
Don
now,
likes some games.
Yeah. Right now, definitely. There's Elden Ring Night Rain, which is co-op PvE. So it's kind of like Elden Ring, but you hop in with 2 other players, and doesn't have any in-game chat. So you just kind of know got to know what you're doing. Go like hunt down the bosses, and it's really cool. Really cool. Upcoming, something you'll be interested in is they're re-releasing Gears of War for PlayStation 5.
Oh, you play Gears?
Yeah, I love Gears of War.
Yeah.
They're coming out with like a movie or something.
Oh, really?
Show about that, yeah.
All right. Yeah, David and I. What would we be? Gears of War 5, was it?
I don't remember which one. I think we did a couple of them, actually.
Oh, that was...
No, 5 is too late. I think probably more like 3.
Yeah, before kids, David and I conquered a few of them games for sure. And let me tell you something, dude. Don, have you ever experienced a game called Dark Souls?
I have not played Dark Souls.
Do you know about it?
I do not.
Brother. This game is made for someone like David and nobody else. It's, well, I should, I mean, not for me. I'm blown away by it. But the difficulty and the problem solving is... it makes my head hurt. That's a game.
It's kind of limitless. That's the thing. Is like you could never get to the bottom of that rabbit hole.
No,
it's limitless.
Perfect for you, man. David, honor and a pleasure, brother.
Sir, always.
Nice talking with you, man.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the D. Woo! All right, David. Thanks, man. I'll see you in the holidays.
Ciao.
Later. Don.
That's me.
It's our first mini episode.
I'm excited.
I am so excited. And it started off as a phone call that got erased.
Yes.
But now this human is in person.
That is exciting.
Listeners, if you remember David Lichtenstein, the man who creates the hardware for purses and does so much more, we also tried speaking with his daughter, Lilu, my niece, and the episode evaporated.
Yeah, we wound up recording everything but the stuff that we meant to record.
Mm-hmm. But it works out.
Because she's here.
She's here in person right now. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, Lilu. Lilu, I gotta know, how's it feel to be our first mini episode?
Feels great.
Yeah. How old are you?
10.
10. That's awesome. Don, we have a true artiste in our shed right now.
Exciting. So what kind of art do you work on?
I do crocheting and drawing and basically like anything.
Yeah, what kind of crocheting do you like to do? Do you make things? Do you make like hats and scarves and stuff?
I made 2 hats and I gave one to my teacher.
Very cool.
I did not know you crochet. How did you learn how to crochet?
My grandma.
Oh, G-Dog. That's who taught you. When am I going to get my hat for my bald head?
In winter.
Yes. I have things to look forward to, Don.
Nice.
When you draw, you know, us boys, we're drawing superheroes. We're drawing dudes skateboarding. I mean, that's what I drew. What do you draw? Do you draw, I believe, I think I've seen some of your stuff. I mean, are you into drawing mythical creatures? Are you into drawing fashion stuff? Like, if you could draw a picture right now, what would be your go-to? What's your favorite kind of thing to draw?
Probably like an anime girl.
Okay.
You're into anime.
I'm into the pictures.
Oh,
Okay.
The art. So I see a list of some questions you have asked to ask you. And so we've asked what you like to make, but now let's talk about the jams. Every time I'm in my car, Don, I'm trying to play some pop punk and some rock and roll, and then Lilu says, step aside. You're listening to my music now. Lilu, can you tell Don about what music is really kicking nowadays?
I usually do Billie Eilish and a new one. I just started listening to her. Her name is Jordy.
And you enjoy singing, am I right? They can't.
What's your
Yes.
favorite?
Okay, there it is. She was nodding, ladies and gentlemen.
What's your favorite song to sing?
I don't really have a favorite.
What's that Billie Eilish song you're always having me play?
What was I made for?
Yes, that's the one. That's the one. And we also have a common love of this song. Was it 1,000, 10 million? It's one of those numbers. Loved you. Do you know what song I'm talking about? Loved you for 1,000 years?
I think it's called 1,000 Years.
Okay. We rock out to that. All right, Lilu, final question. What are some of your hobbies?
I do singing, drawing, crocheting, making art.
Hey, I see someone that you're pretty close to right next to you. Can we bring on a second guest real quick? Is that okay?
Sure.
Who do we have here?
Sora.
Sora, how old are you?
5.
And Sora, what do you like to do in this world? What are your favorite things?
Dancing and singing and drawing and painting sometimes.
Do you know that, Don?
I did not know that.
Sora, and Sora, I have a very important question. Who is your dad?
You.
Oh, the proudest dad in the world.
Gosh. Well, I had no idea. No, I knew that.
Hey, Sora, can you tell the listeners what you do every single morning?
Sometimes I put on makeup and jewelry.
And you're doing such a good job. And not only is she creative, Don, but she is powerful. Can you show him the muscle?
Oh, I want to see. Wait. Oh.
Get
Look
ready
at
for
the
this.
flex.
Oh,
Oh my gosh.
We don't have enough space in here for all of
Wow.
that.
It's like the lightning, the thunder, and the whole storm.
All of it. Sora, how did you get such big muscles?
Because I exercise and eat healthy.
Oh.
That's important. That's important.
And do you love your cousin Lilu?
Yes.
Do you think maybe one day you guys will create something together?
Yeah, but on the other day we played dolls together.
Oh, did you get creative with the dolls?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. Well, I'm so proud of you both. I'm so proud to call you both our first mini episode.
Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Do you guys want to give a shout out? Is there anyone in the world you want to say hi to who might just listen to this episode?
I don't know.
Sora, I love you. Lilu, who do you want to say hi to out in the world?
Actually, I know.
Oh, you got someone? That'll give Lilu some time to think.
It's my friends.
Which ones?
Like Callan, Ainsley, Amelia.
Oh, you got some tight friends. Very cool. And they're awesome summer campers.
I forget my other friend because she went to the other city.
She went to the other city? Sora's big thing now is cities. Which city are they from?
I don't know.
That's cool. That's cool. Well, I'm sure they love you. Not as much as I do, though. Leela, who do you want to give a shout out to? Oh, yeah. Give her that headset so she can hear what's going on. Who out in the world do you want to say what's up to real quick?
I don't think she listens to podcasts, but if she does, her name's Isley. She's my best friend. And my dad and my mom.
Right on.
Very cool.
Right on.
Very cool.
Don, the future is bright with these two, am I right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Lilu and, of course, Sora Lady.
Thanks for listening to Welcome to the Clubhouse, a production of Art Club Hamilton with your hosts Sam Seitels and Don Swenson.
If you like what you heard, hit that subscribe button, give us 5-star ratings, and share it with a friend who'd love to hear it too. It really helps us grow, and not only that, it makes us feel all warm and fuzzy inside.
So fuzzy. Until next time, keep creating, stay curious, and catch you on the next episode.